All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This episode, we are taking a trip over the pond, and we're talking about, this might be our first British horror movie that we've actually discussed on this show, and we're talking about, well, at least to the two of us, a new horror movie.
Brand new.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it until Mark suggested it, even though it is a few years old. But we're talking about 2015's British horror movie, simply titled Howl.
Yeah, I was, scrolling through. I think it was either Netflix or Amazon. I think it was Amazon actually, and I just kind of stumbled across it. And it looks kind of like there's so many like horror films on these streaming services that it's hard to really find one that catches your eye, but for whatever reason this one did. And I watched the trailer and I was like, oh, that looks pretty interesting. So strangely enough, yeah, I was the one who suggested this one, which is, I usually don't go past 1988. So and anything like early 90s, that's like a brand new film. Like to me, like Candyman is like, wow, that was just like, they put that one out yesterday to me in my world.
Oh, speaking of Candyman, not to go down the road of remakes, but for all of you horror fans out there, if you haven't heard the news yet, of course, by the time this episode comes out, it will be a few weeks old, but they have announced that Jordan Peele is going to be remaking Candyman, and he's giving it the old direct sequel to the original treatment. So you have that to look forward to in the next couple of years.
There you go. Halloween setting. Well, actually, it didn't start the trend, but I think the success of Halloween is continuing the trend of the whole let's screw all the other sequels and just go back to the original.
Just fuck them right in the ground. Oh, it drives me nuts.
It's funny, like Texas Chainsaw was actually, I think, one of the first ones to do that with the movie Texas Chainsaw. Like they just said, forget all the other sequels, and we're just going to do a sequel right to the original, and then they kind of followed it right at the end. So that's probably
thought that anybody, after that debacle would have been like, oh, you know what? This is not a good idea. Let's not ever do that again.
Yeah, well, anyhow.
I digress.
So Howl is like you said, it's a British horror film. And as you can imagine, I guess from the title, it is a werewolf film. I think one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting about this, and again, it takes a lot nowadays to really get my attention with these films, especially a new film. If I don't know anything about it, it's hard for me to even say, okay, I'll spend the time and investigate this one. But when I watched the trailer, to me, like the way the film was taped or the
taped.
What is it? Taped. If the way the film was filmed, like the photography and like the cinematography and all that was really, really, I don't know what it was. It's like was very appealing to me. It's just like the color tone, the darkness. I like the idea of the train. So I mean, just to kind of give you an idea what this film's about, it's about a group of people on a train that ends up getting stalled in the middle of the woods, which is a really cool horror movie setup, no matter what you have to say about it.
Yeah, and it's not like a train. Like when I was first reading the synopsis of this, and it said that a werewolf movie on a train, I was thinking like what I had pictured in my mind was what you would think of here in America when you say like a train. And so I'm thinking like, oh, this is like that old school, like train out in the west somewhere in the mountains, and you have like these people like going somewhere. No, and maybe I'm off base on this one because I think in European countries, most trains are exactly what is portrayed in this movie, and it's almost like what you would think of like a subway train or an Amtrak train. It's basically a commuter train is what it is, But it still makes it for a really cool premise. I mean, like you had said, this essentially is a werewolf movie on a train that's out in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, it's a great setup for a movie, and it was like a real good. I thought they did a great job with the characters. Basically, the main character is, I don't know, what do you call that job where you go and like, basically the Tom Hanks character in Polar Express. Like where you go and like clip everybody's ticket.
Yeah, I'm not sure what. It probably has an official title, but yeah, he's not the conductor. He's like the ticket collector.
The ticket collector guy. Yeah, so basically it's his story. He seems to be the main character. And then there's a stewardess. Is that what you call the lady on the train that's like going around giving
probably
water?
Yeah, probably. Okay. I mean, it's the same thing as what you would find on an airplane almost. So.
And it wouldn't be a flight attendant, obviously, on a train. A train attendant.
Oh yeah, is stewardess is probably that's probably not politically correct anymore. You're probably right. It's probably
like a
train
track
assistant.
Attendant or something.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So so basically, he goes and like and you get to meet the characters. And he's going to get the tickets and. You've got some interesting characters. You've got the businesswoman who's upset that she always rides the train and she doesn't have her ticket on this specific night, so she has to pay cash. So she's frustrated. Get to kind of see her backstory. Then there's like these two older people. It's like a couple, an old man and old woman, together on the train. Then you've got this sort of teenage punk type girl. Well, I guess she's not really a punk, but she's more like a I don't know, has her headphones on, doesn't really want to talk. Who else was on that train? I'm trying to remember them all.
It almost was, and again, because we haven't really covered British horror before, and I can't say that I've ever really seen too many British horror movies, but the feel that I was getting from it was they were setting up almost like stereotypical characters.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I mean, like what I would expect to see in this movie if this was made in America, and it wouldn't surprise me if Hollywood got a hold of this and was like, "Oh, we got to remake this and put an American version out there." To where you would have like the jock guy, and you'd have the dumb slutty girl, and you would have the token black guy, in some cases, like the Asian guy or the smart guy, however you'd want to do it. But that's what it almost seemed like to me, was they were setting up these like stereotypical characters, because you had, like you said, you had like the kind of the snotty teenager, but then you had like this like blobby, overweight, fat guy, the businesswoman, but then you also had like a military type of guy, and then you also had like the old couple as well. So
yeah, there was like I don't know, kind of like a jock military-esque type guy.
Yeah.
No, but he was a business guy though, because he was like saying he was out on a business trip, and his wife and
just the alpha male type character is what he was.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But I thought that was really cool, because they really it was very stereotypical type characters, but at the same time, it worked. It was, and that's one thing with horror, is like the reality is that it's kind of like the more simple you can make a horror movie, the better they are. I mean, because you really don't need to elaborate too much. You just need a simple premise, and this is the perfect simple premise. Okay. Group of characters, all these different characters are on a train together, and it's nighttime, and the train stalls in the middle of this wooded area. I mean, that's perfect. That's all you need, really. And then there's werewolves in the woods. I mean, that to me is like such a great setup.
And it's so, like you said, it's so simple, and that's one of the things that I kept saying to myself while I was watching this was, this is great. They're not explaining anything. They are just dumping these people into this situation, and these people are like, oh shit, what's happening? And nobody is like, we've said before on here, this show, that we are huge fans of werewolves and werewolf movies. And one of the things that seems to be typical in not all werewolf movies, but in a lot of werewolf movies, is somebody ends up at a library in the lichen section, and then they, do this whole explanation of what they are experiencing and why they're experiencing it. And so that's why I was kind of waiting for somebody to, like, get service on their cell phone and be like, oh, these are the lichen woods, and it's full of werewolves.
Yeah.
And it's a full moon. Oh, we're screwed. Kind of a thing, and does anybody have a heat source? Let's melt somebody's necklace down into some bullets.
Now, wasn't there like didn't they find out something though? There was like they didn't find, like, there was previously there was some kind of just like death or attack that occurred in the same area.
One of the guys, there was something like that where one of the guys had remembered something happened, like it was like 40 years ago or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one of the guys on the train remembered it. That's right. But yeah, so basically the story is, you get this motley crew in the train, and they the train stalls. The conductor steps out to find out what it is, and apparently they ran over a big buck, and it, like, the antlers cut the fuel lines. And so when this guy's out there, all of a sudden we realize there's these beasts, basically werewolves, that are out in the woods, and they start attacking the train. And what did you think of the werewolf design? Because it was a little bit different than what you would expect with a werewolf.
Yeah, it was, and I am curious to hear what your interpretation of it was as well. So I'll put it two ways. I thought that the monster design was pretty cool in this movie, but at the same time, with the monster design, I am actually a little reluctant to actually say that it's a full-blown werewolf movie, other than just like some sort of like weird creature in the woods type of movie. They were more humanoid than they were werewolf. And the other thing that we didn't really get was we didn't get a good transformation scene in this movie. And that's what I was really hoping for. But honestly, though, that is my one disappointment with the monsters in the movie, the creatures in the movie, because I personally thought that they were pretty cool looking. But again, with the design of them, I wasn't 100% convinced that they were werewolves. But again, I don't actually think at any point in the movie that did somebody say, like, hey, those are werewolves. I'm trying to remember if that ever happened. I don't think it did.
Yeah, I can't recall that either. I mean, obviously there's the one when the creature gets in and attacks passengers, it turns the one woman into one of them. So it kind of, and then obviously the title, and then to me, I think it was like one of those, like, we're left to believe it is werewolves, but they kind of just have a different take on the design and all of that. But yeah, when I first saw the monster, like you said, it was sort of like humanoid, very muscular, very kind of like a beast character, and different than what you would think of, like, I guess, when you think full-blown werewolf. And then there was, like, it seemed like they looked, like, each one of them looked a little different. Like, there was one, like, when they go in the woods towards the end of the movie, and, like, they're all, like, kind of surrounding this one guy. Like, it reminded me of, like, one of the characters from Wrong Turn. And it was almost like more like this kind of old, kind of almost like what's that character from Lord of the Rings? The little guy that's real creepy.
Oh, Gollum?
Gollum. Yeah, it was sort of like a Gollum type mixed with, that kind of vibe, that with like the guy from Wrong Turn kind of thing. It was like, I actually thought it was pretty cool. Like, I was okay with it. Not my favorite werewolf design, I think if you were to ask me, like, what's your favorite design of all the werewolf movies you've ever seen, I probably have to go with The Howling. I just always thought that they did a really good job with those creatures. So this one was kind of like, it was cool. I mean, they were definitely threatening and they were scary. And I think they were actually scarier when they were outside in the dark and their eyes were glowing and you'd see them like their silhouettes coming up and all that. That was pretty creepy.
When you had suggested this, I had put it off for a few days, I think almost a week. And it was one of these ones where, I mean, I didn't watch the trailer, but, from the picture and stuff, and like we had mentioned towards the beginning of the episode, a lot of these streaming services just pick up movies just to have some content,
Right.
And so I was anticipating going into this one like, it's going to be another one of these stupid, Netflix or Amazon Prime, stupid low-budget independent horror movies that nobody's ever going to want to watch. And it's going to end up being another one of these, what was the name of that movie that, Hush. That was the movie that from...
You really didn't like that, did you?
Oh, man, I hated that movie. And, I really, really was thinking, like, going into this, like, this is going to be horrible. And I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised, man. This movie, as I mentioned before, there really wasn't any explanation for anything. It was just by chance you have this group of people in this situation, and all of a sudden they have to face all this hell, and they do what they can, and it was just, as far as I'm concerned, it was a well-done horror movie. It had me, I was sitting there and just locked in as I was watching it, focused in, didn't pick up my phone and check my email or anything, and, just sat there and watched it. And it's That's not cool. Really long either. It's one of these, it's another one of these ones, I think it's like clocks in at like 82 minutes or 83 minutes or something. So, I mean, you can get it watched in, under an hour and a half.
Yeah, I agree with you. I enjoyed it for what it was. And, it's kind of like you and I had been, we were huge werewolf fans for so long, back in the day when we were watching An American Werewolf and The Howling, all that as kids. And, we've continued on always looking for the next great werewolf film. And there really hasn't been anything out there lately. To me, the top three, from our generation were An American Werewolf. It's got to be probably number one, followed by The Howling. And then the third one, in my opinion, is Silver Bullet. And then really there's nothing since then. And then there was, Trick or Treat had that werewolf scene, which was cool. And it kind of changed. It was sort of like a new take on the transformations, which was cool. And that was like about the closest thing I thought we had to something cool in the werewolf genre. And then we tried a few years ago, actually, like back when we first started the show, I strangely enough, another more newer film, I was the one who recommended we try Late Phases. And I know you weren't a fan of that one. I wasn't completely, like, totally against it, but I definitely wouldn't say it was a great film. And so this one, I think, was definitely better than that one. And, again, these are kind of go with the whole Netflix, Amazon streaming films. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this one was very enjoyable, and it was like pretty much everything I was hoping it would be. I mean, is it a bona fide classic? Are we going to be talking about this film 10 years from now? I don't know. Probably not. But at the same time, for just to have something that we relatively enjoyed and be in this era, I thought that was kind of cool.
I am highly disappointed in you at this exact moment. I cannot believe that you left out Wolf Cop.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Wolf Cop. I guess I wasn't thinking the comedy angle. I was thinking full on horror. But yeah, okay. So we got Wolf Cop, and of course, that's on a pedestal all of its own. So
it is. It really is. So I give this one a big thumbs up. If you're looking for a good werewolf movie, you definitely got to check this one out. Yeah, I think it's on Amazon Prime for sure. You know what? This is what we got to start doing with this stuff. Instead of trying to tell everybody where stuff is at, we just got to be like, Google it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs halfway
I do.
up?
I give it a thumbs up. I wouldn't say a big thumbs up, but I would definitely say a thumbs up. It's definitely worth watching. It's one of those films where, especially now that it's getting cold outside, at least here in the Midwest, kind of get comfy in your blanket, grab yourself some hot cocoa and some popcorn and put it on and enjoy. Turn the lights off and it's exactly what you want.
I think you just came up with a new classification of movie there. Hot chocolate and popcorn movie.
I don't know if those two would go well together, though.
I don't know if they would.
To be honest with you.
Well, they probably would. My wife always likes her popcorn with like some M&Ms, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, I don't know if I could do that. Like, yeah, the sweet and the...
Sweet and the salty?
Well, the popcorn salty. I don't think I'd want to do that with something candy-like or chocolate or...
It doesn't matter. That's all getting cut out anyway. So
cool.